My name is Maya Thompson. I am 19. I like math, drawing, and old movies. I had a small room with stacks of college brochures on my desk and a jar full of coins on my windowsill. That jar was my secret promise to myself. I put every extra dollar in it, birthday money, tips from babysitting, the little paychecks I earned after school. I picture myself walking onto a college campus with a backpack I bought with my own money. I pictured studying late at night and telling my parents that I had made it. I told myself I would never need to ask. I would be proud. I would be free. One afternoon, everything changed. I was sitting in the living room, counting the last bills I had in my wallet, when my dad, Mark, came in from the kitchen holding his phone. He had a small smile that did not reach his eyes. My mom, Karen, was with him. She always had a style like a magazine model. Perfect hair, perfect smile, as if she always knew how to keep everyone looking at the right place. Then Lily walked in. Lily was my little sister. She was 24, wanted children, and had been trying to get pregnant for years. Her face was soft and tired. I remember that day she wore a blue sweater and her hair pulled back tight. Dad looked at me and said words I had never expected. "We used your college fund for your sister's IVF," he said. For a second, the room went very small. The air felt thicker, like something was pressing down on my chest. My breath stalled. My coin jar, the college brochures, the posters on my wall, all of it felt like it had been packed into the palm of someone else's hand. Lily smiled. She smiled like someone who had been told a secret would be okay. "You'll understand someday," she said softly. I replied one word, a word I had practiced in my head and never thought I would speak out loud. Refund. That word left my mouth like a small stone thrown into a glass lake. The sound echoed. My dad's face changed from small smile to something like a mask slipping. Mom's eyes shifted. Lily's smile tightened, as if someone had pressed the edge of it. And then everything broke loose. Dad's voice rose in a way I had never heard before. Mom stood up so quickly the lamp behind her wobbled. Lily reached for my hand like she would calm a scared dog, but I pulled back. The living room lights hummed. Outside, a car horn beeped like it wanted to remind us the world kept going even as our family began to fall apart. I will not tell you what happened next. Not yet. I will stop this scene right there, so you can feel the sharp edge of it. The moment before things really explode. My chest was beating very fast. I felt small and huge all at once. Everything broke loose. That is the most shocking part. But I will not finish it here. I will give you what came after. I will go back and tell you how I got there. When I was a kid, my parents told me stories about hard work. They told me about the family that came before us, how they saved for days to buy one good thing. Dad would say, "You build your life on little bricks, Maya. Each penny is a brick." Mom would nod and pat my head and say, "We will teach you how to stack them." So I started saving. I babysat for Mrs. Hall across the street. I folded flyers after church. I walked Mr. Benson's dog every evening, rain or shine. I took extra shifts at the cafe during the summer. I was proud when I dropped coins into the jar and watched the level rise like a small hill. I also applied for scholarships. I got a part-time job at the library to earn a little more. When I told Lily about my plan, she said, "That's so you, May. You'll get there." We hugged, and I felt warmth. Lily had always been good to me like that, soft, full of promises. Lily had problems of her own. After college, she met Jason. They married in a small ceremony and wanted kids. They tried for years. It hurt her to see friends announce pregnancies on social media. They went to doctors, sat in cold rooms with silent machines and papers that said things like low ovarian reserve and unexplained infertility. Each test was more money. Each answer left a new ache. Sometimes she would call me at 2 a.m. and cry. I would stay up and listen and tell her not to lose hope. I gave her what I could, a shoulder, small money sometimes if I had it, but I was saving for college. I thought that was important too. I did not know how to hold two big hopes at once. At dinner one night, Mom brought up Lily's IVF again. "We have to do something soon," she said, folding a napkin. "Time is not kind to women like her." Dad nodded and said, We'll figure it out. We'll do what's needed. They started talking quietly in the kitchen about loans and medical plans. The word IVF hung in the air like a heavy balloon. I listened from the hallway like a spy, but I did not say anything. I thought they would take out a loan, borrow from family, find some other way. I trusted them to tell me. They had always said money for college would be mine. Weeks passed. I kept saving. Then one afternoon, I walked into the study and saw the bank statements on the coffee table. A number on the page made my heart drop. The college fund was gone. The savings account title was changed. My hands felt cold. I picked up the paper and my eyes blurred. The line said, "Transfer to Thompson Medical, IVF." It was in my father's handwriting on the memo line. I could not believe it. I folded the paper and put it back like a secret I did not want to hold. At night, I dreamed about the money jar emptying and Lily's hand reaching into my pocket. I woke up angry and ashamed. I kept telling myself I would catch them in a lie and they would give it back. I thought maybe there was an explanation, a loan, a promise to pay me back something. But my parents had always taught me to tell the truth. So I waited for the truth. The truth arrived in the living room when Dad told me. "We used your college fund for your sister's IVF," he said, and the words landed like blunt rocks in my stomach. I remember thinking how small the living room looked then, the couch, the TV, the framed photo of our family on the mantel. That photo felt like a stage prop for a play that had gone wrong. Lily smiled as if she had been given a treasure, and I said, "Refund." My father's reaction was immediate. He tried to explain. "We did it for the family," he said. "You'll understand when you're older. It's about love and sacrifice." My mother's voice broke into the conversation. "Lily needs this. She has been through so much. You can go to community college, Maya. We didn't mean to hurt you." Lily reached toward me. "May, it's for my baby. You know I would do anything for you too one day." I felt like all the air left the room. I had trusted them. I had believed their promises. Their words felt like cold water poured over my plans. Tears gathered at the edges of my eyes. I remembered the nights I sat alone with application forms and envelopes, trying to convince myself I could do this. I remembered the jar on the windowsill with my small coins, its glass smudged from my fingerprints. My fingers itched to hold something steady. I wanted to be angry in a way that would fix things. "Refund," I had said, and that word had been a kind of hope. The first week after that conversation was a quiet war. Mom and Dad avoided my room. They knocked on the door like it was fragile. Lily texted me with small check-ins, but she never brought it up again. The family dinners became smaller. My father left earlier for work. My mother smiled Jared like fake paint. I went to the library and sat at the same table and looked at the same textbooks and tried to bury myself. I noticed how everything felt different. The air tasted of metal. I started to look for ways to get the money back without a big fight because I did not want to break the family. But I was too young to know how to do it quietly. I thought of returning the favor. Maybe I could pay back a little of their costs with money from side jobs. I picked up extra hours and tried to save the few dollars I could. I applied for more scholarships. I made a list of possible grants. I told myself that I would not let them think they had won. One day, Lily invited me to lunch. Her eyes looked tired but bright. She said, "I heard you want to study art. You would be so good at it." I felt a small warmth. Maybe she still loved me. I wanted to say something sharp, but instead I nodded and said, "Thanks." Later that day, I found an envelope tucked into my bedroom drawer. It was a letter from Lily. Her handwriting was shaky and small. She wrote about her struggles, about nights spent on the phone with doctors, about crying in empty rooms. She wrote, "If it helps, I am sorry. I know you had plans. I will make it right when I can." I read the letter and cried. It felt like a rope was tied around my throat, tight, loving, impossible. The truth was I loved Lily. I wanted her to be happy. I wanted my family whole. But love does not erase everything. Promises mattered to me. Plans mattered. My college fund was more than money. It was my safety net, my dream, my ticket to a life where I could be someone who could help others. Losing it felt like someone had erased part of my map. I tried to be kind. I helped Lily pick out baby names on her phone. I looked at lists of parenting books in the bookstore and smiled. I sat with her during appointments and held her hand while she received injections and reports. I wanted to show support, but inside I was building a slow, burning stove. The desire for fairness. Then things changed again. One afternoon, I went to the bank to check on my student loan options. I told the teller I needed information, and the woman behind the counter smiled and handed me a printout. On it, I saw a note that froze my feet to the floor. The bank had a record, an electronic trail, of a repayment plan on my name for a small loan taken out months ago. I had never been told about that loan. The amount matched the IVF costs. The plan was in my name. No one had asked me to sign anything. The bank called it co-signed by guardian in one line, but the file had a different set of initials on it. Middle initials I did not recognize. My hands shook. I called Dad and Mom at the same time and asked, "Why is there a loan under my name?" They were quiet. Then Dad said, "It's complicated. We only did it because medical bills pile up fast." I thought about legal things I did not know, and the number of ways someone could hurt you with papers you never signed. I sat down at a bench and stared at my phone as if it had betrayed me. I decided I needed proof. I started looking for bank receipts in the house. I wanted a record, something real, to show that my money had been used. I checked in drawers, in envelopes, in the little safe my parents kept for important things. In the safe, under a stack of old tax papers, I found an official-looking envelope with the bank's logo. Inside, there was a small contract. My name was not on it, but someone had forged a signature that looked like mine, almost perfect. I could see the curve of the M and the crooked tail of the Y. It was like someone had taken my handwriting from a birthday card and copied it onto a paper that changed my life. My heart thundered. I clutched the contract and felt like someone had given me a key to a locked room. It was evidence. It was a crack in the story they had given me. I wanted to go to the police, to the bank, to find someone who would make things right. But I also wanted to do something else first. I wanted to see who would stand with me. I wanted to see if the family I loved would tell the truth to my face. I wanted them to look at me and say, "We are sorry. We will fix this." I wanted to hear it before I let the law decide. That night, I planned to confront them at the family dinner. It was one of those small dinners when the house smelled like roasted chicken and cinnamon. My parents were in the kitchen, moving plates like they were trying to keep everything normal. Lily was setting the table, humming something soft. The TV was on low in the background. I had the contract in my back pocket like a secret weapon. I walked in and sat down. My hands were colder than I thought. I looked at Dad and said, "We need to talk." Dad stopped stirring the potatoes and looked at me. "About what?" he asked. I lifted my chin and handed him the envelope. His face went white. Mom reached for it like someone reaching for a cracked cup. Lily's humming stopped. The room felt very quiet. Then Dad laughed in a small, sharp way. "Maya, where did you get that?" he asked. "You shouldn't be going through our things." I did not back down. "This is my money," I said. "You used it. This has my name on the loan papers, and—" "That is not how money works," Mom interrupted. Her voice was strained. "We made a family decision." Lily looked at me, with something I could not read. Her eyes were like wet glass. "May, if you only knew how much I wanted this," she whispered. I felt something break inside me that night. Not the big explosion yet, but a crack. I stood up and walked to the window and looked out at the street. The sky was the color of old blue denim. I could see our neighbors' kids playing. I imagined them growing up and putting their own screws into life, and not having to beg for money from anyone who pretended to love them. I imagined myself at a college class, learning to draw, maybe later teaching kids like those out there what to do with a pencil. I turned back to the kitchen. "Refund," I said again, but now it sounded small, like a coin dropped under a couch. My father slammed the table with his palm. The plates rattled. "You don't get to demand things like that, Maya," he said. "We did this for family." I felt my face go hot. I wanted to shout, to scream, to make him feel the exact cut I felt. But I did not. Instead, I picked up my backpack. I'm leaving, I said. As I walked out the front door, Lily called my name. I did not answer. I walked down the porch steps and nearly fell when the neighbor's dog ran past. A car drove by too fast and spray hit my shoes. I felt like I was walking through cold water. My chest hurt. When I reached the end of the street, I heard a noise behind me, the sound of a car door slamming. I did not turn. Something extreme happened then. A loud crash echoed from inside the house. I heard the sound of breaking glass mixed with a sharp, animal cry. It was Mom. I froze. My feet rooted to the ground. The air smelled like fear. I did not know what had broken. I did not know who was hurt. I did not know if this was the beginning of the end or just the start of a storm. I stood there with the night all around me, and my fingers still clutched the contract in my jacket pocket. The envelope felt like a stone that could sink my whole family or pull it back together. Everything had already broken loose. And now, somehow, the breaking had turned louder. I will not tell you what happened next. Not yet. I stayed on the sidewalk for what felt like hours, watching the streetlights flicker, my chest tight, my hands shaking. I didn't know if I should go back in. My father's shout, my mother's crash, Lily's small cry, it all played like a broken record in my mind. I felt like the air had been replaced by something heavy, like fog pressing on my skin. I didn't move until I heard footsteps behind me. It was Jason, Lily's husband. He looked frantic. Maya, what's going on? His voice cracked. His tie was loose and his hair was messy, like he had run from the office. They used my college fund for Lily's IVF, I said, my voice small, shaking. I have proof. They forged my signature. He blinked, slowly understanding. Oh no. Maya, I didn't wait for him. I turned and walked toward the park at the end of the street. I needed to breathe. I needed space. I couldn't deal with anyone trying to calm me down. Not yet. My hands still clutched the envelope with the forged contract. It felt heavier than any backpack I'd carried in my life. I sat on a swing, the metal cold against my palms. My legs swung back and forth. My mind replayed everything, the promise of that coin jar, the dreams of campus life, Lily's soft smile, my father's tight-lipped explanations. Betrayal didn't feel like a word. It felt like a storm in my chest, twisting me from the inside. I remembered what my grandmother had always told me. She used to sit me on her lap when I was little, her hands always warm, and say, Maya, the world will take from you, but don't let it take your heart. Fight smart, not angry. I breathed and tried to remind myself of that. Fight smart. I went back home the next day. The house was quiet. Too quiet. Mom and Dad avoided eye contact, their movements careful. Lily greeted me with a faint smile, but I didn't trust it. I wasn't sure I could ever trust it again. I went straight to my room and spread out the papers on my desk, the bank statements, the forged contract, the notes from the teller. Each paper felt like a small weapon. I knew I needed a plan. I couldn't just storm in and yell, though part of me wanted to. That would only destroy the few threads of family left. I wanted results. I wanted my refund. That evening, I overheard Lily talking on the phone in the living room. Her voice was soft, trembling. Yes, everything's fine now. Nothing happened, okay, thank you. She hung up and wiped her eyes. I knew it wasn't the IVF doctor. It was someone else. Someone who had helped them cover the loan. I had no idea who, but I made a mental note. Everyone connected would eventually know. Over the next week, I started small. I applied for every scholarship, grant, and part-time opportunity one could find. I took up tutoring younger kids in math after school, folding lessons with art, so I could save up something extra for college. Every coin, every dollar, every tip I earned went into a new envelope, my own new secret fund. I didn't tell anyone. I wanted it to be untouchable, invisible. At the same time, I watched my parents. Dad's smile was more forced. Mom's hands shook when she poured coffee. They were walking on eggshells around me, probably noticing that I was different. I was quieter, colder, and calculating in ways I hadn't been before. I realized that even though they had taken my money, I still had a weapon they didn't see. Patience. Then the extreme event happened. It was a Friday night. I was doing homework at my desk when I heard the front door slam. I froze. That door always slammed when something went wrong. I peeked out the window. My mother was standing in the driveway, her hands pressed to her face, and my father was yelling something about, "How could this happen?" And then I saw it. A car had hit our mailbox. Not lightly. The post was snapped in half, metal bent like twisted paper. Our neighbor's cat darted away. I didn't know who was driving, but it wasn't just an accident. It looked deliberate. I grabbed my backpack, ran outside, and saw Lily crouching by the car, tears streaming down her face. It's gone," she whispered. "The envelope, the clinic, all the payments gone." I felt my stomach drop. My parents shouted at each other, panic in their voices. My father turned to me, eyes wide, and said, "Maya, did you?" I shook my head. "I didn't do this," I said, but the truth was, I didn't care if they believed me or not. Something inside me clicked. This was the perfect storm. Their world was already crumbling, and I had the chance to rebuild mine while they were distracted, scrambling. I didn't know yet what exactly I was going to do. I only knew one thing. I wanted my money back, and I wanted them to understand that taking someone's dream had consequences. That one word, refund, was no longer just a whisper in my chest. It was a warning. And then, just as the neighbors began gathering, someone else arrived. A sleek black car pulled into the driveway. The doors opened, and a man in a dark suit stepped out. He looked around, calm, almost smiling. His gaze landed on me. My heart froze. He walked toward the house, and I could see the flash of a badge clipped to his belt. FBI. I whispered to myself. And in that moment, I realized, whatever game my family had been playing, whatever secrets they had kept, it was about to get much bigger. Everything was about to explode. I didn't know how yet, but I knew one thing. My life, my plan, my revenge, it was just beginning. The man in the suit stood on the porch like he owned the silence. Dad stammered something about a mistake, while Mom clutched the kitchen counter, her knuckles white. Lily's face was pale, almost ghostly, as if she had been caught in a storm she didn't know how to survive. The man spoke slowly. "Maya Thompson?" His voice was calm but firm. "We need to speak with you. Privately." My stomach twisted. I glanced at my parents. Their eyes were wide, panicked. I had no idea what was happening, but something inside me told me this was important. I stepped forward. "Who are you? What is this about?" He lifted a small badge. "I'm Detective Harris, Financial Crimes Unit. We received a report regarding unauthorized transfers from a bank account under your name." I froze. My heart beat so fast I could feel it in my throat. That's my college fund," I whispered. He nodded. "We need your statement. Can you come with me?" My parents protested, voices overlapping. "Maya, wait. Don't. This is complicated." Dad's voice cracked. Mom's tone was frantic. Lily tried to stop them, but I didn't listen. I had a chance to finally face this head-on, and I wasn't going to back down. I followed Detective Harris to a car parked at the end of the street. The air outside felt colder than usual, but it woke me up. The city lights reflected off the wet pavement. Everything smelled of rain and asphalt. I sat in the back seat, clutching the envelope with a forged contract like a lifeline. Inside, Detective Harris was calm. "Maya, we've seen cases like this before. Sometimes families make decisions without the minor's knowledge, or accounts get manipulated. You'll have a chance to explain everything. But it's serious." Serious. That word hit me like a slap. My entire family, my parents, Lily, they had crossed lines. I hadn't just lost money. I had been lied to, manipulated, and erased from my own plan. Back home, the atmosphere had changed. Neighbors whispered. Children peeked through windows. My parents tried to act normal, but the air was thick with tension. Dad's usual authority was gone. Mom's smile had vanished entirely. Even Lily avoided me, walking lightly around me like I might snap. I spent the next few days giving statements, handing over the documents, emails, and bank receipts. Each moment I relived the betrayal. Each proof I handed over felt like another layer of weight lifting off my chest. But I also felt a growing hunger for more than just justice. I wanted accountability. I wanted them to understand the ripple effect of what they had done. Then came a smaller, quieter event that made everything worse in a subtle way. It was Saturday morning. I went to the local library to study and get some space from the tension at home. I hoped the quiet smell of books and dust would soothe me. I was halfway through a math problem when my phone buzzed. A text from Lily. "May, can we talk? Please. It's important." I hesitated. Part of me wanted to ignore it. Part of me wanted to see what she had to say. I texted back. "Fine. When?" She replied almost immediately. "Now. At the park. Just come." I grabbed my jacket and walked to the park. She was sitting on our favorite bench near the fountain, her hands wrapped around a cup of coffee. Her eyes were red, not from makeup, but from tears. "Maya, I never wanted it to go this far," she said quietly. "I never wanted you to feel betrayed. I thought Mom and Dad were helping. I didn't know they would manipulate everything like this." I stared at her. "You didn't know?" My voice was low but sharp. "You didn't know they used my money, forged my name, and then left me out like I didn't matter?" She shook her head. "I didn't ask them to do it. I swear. I wanted a baby, Maya. I really did. But I never wanted to hurt you. I wanted to believe her, but the rage bubbling inside me refused. You smiled when they told me. You told me I'd understand someday. That was a lie." Lily's lips trembled. I was scared. I didn't know how you'd react. I thought you'd forgive me eventually. I thought family came first." I wanted to scream. I wanted to hit something. Instead, I took a deep breath and stared at the fountain. The water sparkled in the morning light, like it didn't care about lies or pain. I realized then that forgiveness wouldn't come easy. But revenge was more tempting than I had ever imagined. And then the extreme event struck. As I was leaving the park, my phone rang. I didn't recognize the number. I answered cautiously. "Maya Thompson?" A distorted voice whispered. "You're digging in the wrong place. Stop asking questions, or you'll regret it." The call ended before I could respond. My hands went cold. I looked around. The park was emptying, but I felt watched. I hurried home, clutching my backpack like it could protect me. When I got inside, the house was silent. Too silent. Mom was in the kitchen, Dad in the living room. Lily was nowhere in sight. Then I noticed something on my bed, a small envelope with no name, just a single note. "We know what you're planning. Watch your back." My heart raced. My stomach dropped. I had expected resistance from them, maybe guilt, maybe anger, but this was a warning. Someone was trying to scare me. And that meant one thing. I was onto something bigger than just my college fund. Everything was escalating faster than I could control. The family I thought I knew was unraveling, and I was standing at the center of it. I clenched my fists. My mind was sharp, calculating. Refund wasn't enough anymore. I wanted justice. I wanted exposure. I wanted them to feel the weight of every lie. And deep down, I knew the next extreme event would hit closer than anyone expected. Because this storm was only beginning. The next few days were a blur. Every time I walked into the house, I felt like I was stepping onto a battlefield. Mom and Dad avoided eye contact, tiptoeing around me like I might explode. Lily stayed in her room most of the time. The silence was thick, heavy, like a blanket suffocating everything familiar. I spent hours going through my evidence again and again, the bank statements, the forged signatures, emails between the clinic and my parents. I wanted to make sure there were no mistakes. Every line I studied made my anger grow, but it also made my plan clearer. I wasn't just going to demand my refund anymore. I was going to make sure they understood exactly what they had done. Then came a less extreme, almost quiet, yet revealing event. One afternoon, I was in the kitchen, making a cup of tea. Lily came in, wearing oversized sweatpants and a hoodie. She looked exhausted, both physically and emotionally. I didn't move. I just watched as she carefully poured herself a glass of water. "Maya, can we talk?" she said softly. Her voice shook a little, but she was trying to be calm. I nodded slowly. Okay. What about? She sat across from me at the kitchen table. I never meant to hurt you, she said, staring at the wood grain like it could explain everything. I thought Mom and Dad were just trying to help me. I didn't know they'd take your money. I feel terrible. I wanted to believe her.
Part of me did.
But part of me remembered her smile, the one she gave when Dad told me my college fund was gone. The one that said, "You'll understand someday." I don't know if I can forgive that, Lily, I said honestly. You smiled. You acted like it was okay. You didn't stand up for me. She swallowed hard. I know I should have. I was scared. I didn't want to lose my chance to have a baby, and I made a terrible mistake by trusting them over you. Her confession was quiet, almost fragile. It tugged at something in me, a tiny thread of empathy. But I didn't let it change my resolve. I still wanted justice. I still wanted my money. I still wanted them to feel the weight of what they had done. And then the extreme event hit, shattering whatever calm I had left. That night, I heard a loud crash from the living room. I froze, my heart racing. I grabbed my phone and ran toward the noise. The front door was wide open. Papers and small objects were scattered across the floor. The TV screen was smashed, flickering static. Mom was screaming, and Dad was yelling. Lily was crying. And then I saw him, the man from before, Detective Harris, standing in the middle of the chaos.
But he wasn't calm this time.
His eyes were sharp, scanning the room. Maya Thompson, he said, his voice cutting through the panic. You need to listen carefully. This isn't just about a college fund anymore. Someone has been manipulating your family, using accounts, forging documents, and now it's escalating. If you don't follow instructions, things could get much worse. I felt my stomach drop. What do you mean? I asked, clutching the envelope with the forged contract tighter than ever. He looked at me with a seriousness that made my knees weak. Your parents are involved, yes, but they're only a part of a bigger scheme. And someone knows you're on to them. That's why the envelope was left in your room. You need to be careful. I glanced at my parents. They looked terrified, guilty, but also helpless. Lily was trembling. Everything I thought I understood about my family, about trust, about betrayal, it was unraveling faster than I could process. And then the door slammed behind him. He was gone. The house was silent again, but it wasn't calm. It was tense, sharp, like the air itself was holding its breath. I knew one thing. My plan for revenge, my desire for justice, was no longer just about the money. It was about survival, about uncovering the truth, about making them see the consequences of their choices. I felt a cold determination settle inside me. I was ready. Whatever came next, I would face it. Whatever secrets were buried, I would dig them up. And whatever lies they had told, I would make sure the truth came out. But I also knew the next extreme event was coming. It would hit closer to home, and it would change everything. Because storms like this never calm down quietly, they only get louder. For a few seconds, no one moved. My parents stood frozen in the doorway of the lawyer's office, my mother squeezing her purse like it was the only thing holding her together, and my father blinking over and over like he was trying to wake up from a dream he didn't like. My sister, Emily, sat across from me. Her hands were on her stomach, the same stomach that held the baby they thought I was going to help pay for. She looked terrified, small and confused. And me? I just sat there, calm, too calm. The lawyer repeated the words my parents clearly couldn't process. Your daughter, he said, tapping the folder with his pen, is the legal owner of the house. Everything has already been transferred. The deed, the title, the insurance, the taxes, all of it. My mother swallowed hard. Why would you do this, Lily? I didn't answer her. I wasn't ready to speak.
Not yet.
Because this moment, the moment they finally faced the reality they built with their own hands, was something I needed them to feel. Every piece of it. The room was silent except for the hum of the air conditioner and the slow scratch of the lawyer closing the folder. My father finally managed a whisper. We're homeless? The lawyer cleared his throat gently. You'll need to move out within 30 days. Emily looked between all of us, her voice cracking. Lily, please, why didn't you tell us you were doing this?
Why?
She knew why. She just didn't want to face it. But before I could speak, the lawyer excused himself to give us privacy, leaving us in a room full of questions I was finally ready to answer. I sat up straighter, letting the truth settle in my chest before I let it out. You took my future, I said quietly. So, I took my leverage. My mother gasped. My father closed his eyes like the words hurt worse than a punch. Emily shook her head fast, tears already piling up. But I wasn't done. I finally stood, walking toward the window so I didn't have to see their faces when I said the part that changed everything. You didn't just use money, I said softly. You used me. I turned around slowly. And now you're going to hear the whole truth. My mother whispered, What truth? I took a deep breath. And just as I opened my mouth to speak, the door burst open. The lawyer rushed back in, his face pale, holding his phone in his hand. There's a situation, he said urgently. You all need to come outside. Now. We all stared at him. What happened? I asked. He hesitated. It's the house, he said. Someone just broke in. My mother gasped and grabbed Emily's arm. My father stormed toward the door. My heart slammed against my ribs. The lawyer added one more sentence, his voice shaking. And they're refusing to leave. Everything around me blurred. Someone broke into my house. Someone was inside. And they weren't leaving? My father looked at me, panic in his voice. Lily, who would do this? I didn't know. Not yet. But someone did. And whatever was waiting outside that office was only the beginning.